Welcome back to Film Fanatics, where we talk about the movies that have us obsessed, excited, and inspired. I'm Alan.
And I'm Gal, and today the Film Fanatics are entering Woodsboro.
That is right, Gal. We're slashing through the punk hit of the slasher genre, the Scream franchise. We're going through the entire franchise and we'll review Scream 6 by the end.
We also may get into some spoilers at the end of the show, because one of the most exciting parts of these movies is who the hell is Ghostface? Joining us today is the creator of the Movie Nerds Instagram page. Together with his friends on the page, they have racked up 20.7 thousand followers. He's also been to film premieres in Australia and interviewed celebrities such as Michael Biehn from The Terminator and Aliens. Please welcome to the show, Ryan Josh Adams.
Hey Ryan, what's up?
Jeez, Michael Biehn. That goes straight down to the. We've done heaps of stuff like that. I think the first one I actually kicked off. Sorry, I'll just start off by saying hi. I'm Ryan from Movie Nerds. But I was like, when you said the celebrities, and then you went to Michael Biehn, I went, dang, that's like we did Quentin Tarantino. That was the first first interview I ever got to talk to, and that was like 3 weeks into Movie Nerds, which was like
oh my god.
How does that happen?
I don't know. To this day, I still.
Gal's like taking notes.
Exactly.
It was pure luck. We started it, and I emailed literally every single studio I could, and it just happened by chance that they were promoting The Hateful Eight, and they were coming out to Sydney with him, Kurt Russell, and Sam Jackson, and they were like, "Oh, we can't give you Kurt Russell or Sam Jackson, but I guess we could give you Tarantino if you want to talk to him."
I guess Tarantino.
Yeah, like it was like, if I would prefer to take, I want Tarantino. He's the one I want. So yeah, that's how that one worked. It was
Yeah, because in your Instagram, you guys have Michael Biehn interview pinned. So I was like, that's still awesome.
Yeah. Well, that one was cool because we actually hosted him out here. Like, so he came out to Sydney and did like a tour for Aliens and. Just talking about his movies overall, and yeah, we got to host it, and then that's kind of continued on. We did Sam Jones from Flash a couple of months later, and then last month or a couple of weeks back, we did Cynthia Rothrock, who's a action star from the 80s, great action star. But it's been pretty cool. We've been pretty lucky of who we've been able to get over the time.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Have you guys met any celebrities or chatted to any celebrities over the time?
Met, yeah, like interviewed, no.
No, we've interviewed like a couple of indie directors in the
like
show.
Instagram popular more.
Yeah. Like we interviewed William Atticus Parker just a couple of weeks back, and we also interviewed.
Well, we have like Mike Pesci. He had this short film that went really big on Instagram. It's still really cool to hear from filmmakers in the process, because like even when we interviewed him, he has this whole podcast about demystifying like the actual filmmaking process. Now it's not like some magical thing that that's like, how like in interviews and behind the scenes they're always like, oh, it's all just click. Like, no, you actually have to like work for years, and so they really like. It's really interesting to hear the actual nitty gritty from them.
Yeah, he was a great podcast guest, actually.
But I've met celebrities, like seeing them at events. Like I shook hands once with Jesse Eisenberg at an event, or when I was 14, I told Meg Ryan about film toppings, which I'm sure she doesn't remember. But that's something I always take pride in.
I love that. We had actually, I was going to say that the best way when I started doing, so Movie Nerds was a second part to what I was originally trying to do, was a film blog, and the film blog was called So Is It Any Good? And it was all right for a while, and we did pretty well. But the way we got interviews with people was actually just cold calling them and cold calling their agents and stuff. And the way you can do that, you guys, if you're interested, it's just getting a license or a subscription to IMDb Pro.
And,
and they've got basically, if you go B grade actors from the 80s or 90s that aren't hitting it big anymore, they've usually either got their agent agent's number there or email. Some of them even have their direct email, so you can just talk straight to them. And we did that with I don't know if you know who Christopher Lambert is from like Mortal Kombat and Highlander and stuff like that. And
Oh, that dude's old school.
yeah, and then we did it with David F. Sandberg from Shazam.
Oh,
And that
He's
was
like super down to earth. He comes on all the channels and podcasts.
Yeah, that one was why I was like I emailed his agent, and she's like, "Oh yeah, he'll chat to you whenever." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. I'll lock in the time." And I left my mobile to lock in the time with her. And I was driving down the freeway one day, and I just get this phone call, and I'm like, "Hey, this is Ryan. Who's this?" And he's like, "Hey, this is David." And I'm like, "Sorry, David who?" And he's like, David Sandberg, David F. Sandberg." I'm like, "Oh, crap, I have no way of recording anything we're doing, but I'll just pull over right now." And yeah, talk to him on the freeway. And it was good for us. I ended up writing the interview out as best as I could, but I couldn't do any recording because it was just kind of out of the blue. But it was, that IMDb route, if you guys ever want to chat to people, is a really good way to connect up with some.
We should start paying for that, honestly.
You might have just changed Film Fanatics for good.
I highly recommend it. And it can I guarantee you that sort of stuff will change how people find you, because if you crack that one listing or one question with a certain person, you can open up so many different avenues. We just bringing back one more time to Tarantino, and tell me if I'm ranting too much, because I like to rant, and I guess that's why we started Movie Nerds. But we chatted to Tarantino, as I said before, and I just happened to ask him, what, have you ever considered making a movie here in Australia? And if you did, what would it be? And at the time, he had just said that I'm only making 10 movies, and Hateful Eight was number 8. So there was only going to be 2 more movies. And he said, yeah, for number 10, I'm thinking about making a Ned Kelly movie here in Australia. And I was like, holy shit, that's exclusive stuff right there. And I put it straight up on our blog, and literally every company picked it up. Collider, it was everywhere on news channels, on like Channel 7, all these different things. And there was my stupid face that I've only been doing this blog for like 2 weeks, asking, this cool question. And it blew up our blog quite big. So if you just randomly contact people, you don't know what's going to happen.
He does live like 10 minutes from my house, actually, so maybe we can get him.
Tarantino?
Yeah.
Just walk over. What do you?
I'm not sure exactly.
My grandma's friend has seen him at the park with
I'm
his
not
kid.
sure exactly where he lives, but like I know, like he lives in the same city I do here, and because he married like an Israeli woman, so he lives like 10-15 minutes away from my apartment.
Yeah. So Ryan, we know that you're a mega Scream fan. What's your history with Scream, the original and the franchise? Tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, so I got introduced to Scream from my sister. So I was quite young when that movie came out. Quote me if I'm wrong, but is it 96 that movie came out, the first one?
Yeah, 96.
Yeah, so 96.
It's the same year I was born.
What's that, sorry?
It's the same year I was born.
Great. Okay, so I was born 10 years prior to that, so I'm a little bit older than you. That's good to know. But I remember my sister coming in.
It's okay, Gal was a fetus.
You've got to check out Scream. It's it's a horror movie, but it's about everyone loving movies, and it's like it's like a take on the love of movies, but also making it a horror. And I was like, okay, I've got to check it out. And it was VHS at the time, obviously, and I watched it on a screen probably no bigger than probably the actual window I'm looking at right now of you guys talking. It was tiny, VHS, poor quality.
I remember those days.
Yeah, exactly. And it was, perfection for me. I'd seen a lot of slasher horrors before, like Halloween and, Friday the 13th and stuff like that. But that was a complete game changer and just got me really excited again about slashers and horrors. And just, yeah, bear in mind I was 10. So it was a pretty big time. I might have been 11 technically by the time it actually hit VHS. Yeah, there it is. What a movie. And I just remember, from that actual day about getting excited about making horror movies. And I wrote a script about, which I thought at the time was quite a unique story. Turns out that I just recreated Scream again in a terrible short form version of it. But to me at the time, it was quite a great idea. And then I guess it's just kind of continued on from there until last Thursday that I saw Scream 6.
I've always been a little late to horror. Even when I was like getting into movies, I always put off horror. So I actually only saw Scream for the first time about a year and a half ago. So a little bit before Scream 5 came out. I watched this one, just me and a friend were looking for a movie, and I had so much fun with it. I think, honestly, I don't think it's a better made film than Halloween or The Exorcist, but I think I enjoyed it the most out of all of them, even more than like Wes Craven's Elm Street, even though they were influenced by Scream was influenced by those other films. I think just in terms of the experience of watching the first Scream for the first time, it resonated with me the most. The humor, the meta-ness, that first scene with Drew Barrymore, I just knew I was watching something really fun, and like it's as like weighty with the stakes as it is just balls to the wall ridiculous.
Yeah.
I have a somewhat weird history of Scream. For the first 15 years of my life, I was 100% sure that I watched Scream. Turns out I hadn't. I watched Scary Movie 1,000 times when I was a kid, and I was convinced that was Scream. So I when I was a kid, I was a huge fan of the scary movies. I would watch it all the time with my sister. We watched the whole franchise on a loop, and I remember again I thinking that was Scream until I was 16, which is ridiculous. I actually only watched Scream for the first time a week ago exactly. I watched the whole franchise for the first time this week. I will say the first movie kind of got ruined for me because of Scary Movie. That might sound like a joke, but because I had it burned in my head so much, I kept thinking I knew the twist. I kept thinking you know what I mean? I felt because I watched the parody version of it so many times, it kind of blemished the original for me, which is so bad.
So you put on Scream thinking it was how Scary Movie was about to play out.
Exactly, I thought it was the same twist. So in my mind, Dewey was the killer the whole time, because that's the killer in Scary Movie.
Dude, imagine if Dewey was the killer in the first movie.
So it totally ruined the experience for me. I was oh man, they're doing the same. I've seen this before, whatever. But so I gave it a 7.5 when I watched the first. But now that I watched the whole franchise, I gained such a love for the franchise, which is so weird because I just watched it.
When you watched Scream the first time, did you already know going into it that it wasn't Scary Movie?
No, I knew that it wasn't Scary Movie.
Okay.
I yes.
Scenes of it and just seeing your reaction, what the hell? Why is it Nev Campbell stuck to the roof by jizz?
Where the hell's Anna Faris?
That's like putting on Star Wars and asking, where's John Candy?
No. I came into knowing that it was a different movie. It was just because the imagery is so similar. So I kept tricking myself that I knew what was happening, and I think that kind of damped my experience.
Well, did you know that Scary Movie was its original title too?
Interesting.
Sorry, Siri's now even telling me that that's true. Yeah. So its original title was Scary Movie, but they changed it towards the end of it just to kind of take it away and give it its own, breath away from the fact that it wasn't exactly its own. Yeah, you know what I mean? Exactly its own movie. But yeah, it was originally called Scary Movie.
And they have the twist also that is that it is the boyfriend and all that. So I kind of
Skeet Ulrich's really good in the first movie, honestly, and Matthew Lillard are both really good.
I think part of the problem was that I thought it was supposed to be this serious horror movie from back in the day. You know, that Scary Movie parodied. And I didn't know that itself was a parody of other scary movies. So I think as soon as I got that in the second movie, when I was watching the second movie, as soon as that clicked, I was oh fuck, I'm watching something special. Let's go through our ratings. I'll go an 8 for Scream.
I'm going to go as high as 9.5. I just think it really challenged the slasher genre and kind of changed it moving forward. And there was a lot of, try to be likes afterwards, and no one ever came close. No one. I still don't think anyone's changed the slasher genre since then.
Yeah, I'm gonna second that. 9.5 out of 10 for me. All the cast is really good. Nev Campbell, Courtney Cox. Like, you start out really hating Gail, and then she redeems herself, and then she, like, we'll talk about it. She goes through this cycle, but it just stands on its own really well, but established a really fun franchise. So 9.5 out of 10 for me.
Are you guys ready for Scream 2?
Scream 2.
In the 90s, there was only one way that you can top the original. If you go to college. So, Scream went to college. Scream 2 stars basically a lot of the same people, the ones that, well, survived the first Scream movie.
Scream 2 opens with Jada Pinkett Smith getting brutally murdered in the movie theater. And then Leif Schreiber is like, he has a big part in this movie also as Cotton Weary, which weirdest name ever, but
Cotton is the first he was the guy that was accused of killing Sidney Prescott's mother in the first movie, and he got released between the first and the second because he was, of course, not Ghostface, and he's in this weird apology tour. So he's trying to convince Sidney.
He's like kind of a celeb.
He's kind of a celeb, but like he doesn't have a book deal or anything. Like he was
trying to get her onto a talk show so they could and it was, I can't think of a name, but it's the biggest talk show host at the time.
I think it was the one by Barbara Walters.
Barbara Walters, yeah, that's it.
Yes.
I still can't comprehend that his name is Cotton. But
yeah, it's so weird, and it never gets not weird. So I told you guys when we were talking about Scream 1 that Scream 2 was when it really clicked for me. And it really did. I had such a blast watching this movie. When they were like the whole film studies scene, when they're like talking to their film professor about how sequels are the worst. And like some of them are trying to like, no, but what about Empire Strikes Back? What about this? What about that? And like that, like, just as a movie lover, that scene like warmed my heart, and I was having such a good time.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's basically this podcast, right? So it's in a movie, it's that movie nerd like moment that you just like, yes, there's other people out there like me.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and they're all just as fucking weird as I am.
It's also, I think this movie's slightly less funny than the first, but it still has those great moments. But I kind of want to say something that I think is kind of controversial. I don't think David Arquette's acting in all the sequels is that great. Like,
my man.
I loved him once we get to Scream 5. I thought he was great, dude. But I feel like after one, he kind of like not annoyed me, but I don't know. He just every time he has Ryan Gosling's exact voice. So I just call him Discount Ryan Gosling for like all of 2 through 3 while I was watching those movies.
Yeah, I quite liked it. I mean, not to jump ahead, but when we got to number 5, I was quite annoyed about it because it was just like he's. I guess for me, he's always been that the comedy. I guess the comedic part of the movies outside of Randy. Bless his soul that died in this one. But continuing on, I've always quite liked Dewey. But the biggest thing for me for number 2, I mean, outside of it being quite a good sequel in comparison to anything else you look at for the slasher genre, like things like I don't know if you've seen Friday the 13th Part 2 or Halloween Part 2. All of these sequels, they kind of sucked, and this one just. I guess it just knew what it was and just played that same road again and kept all the characters the same and just kind of continued on as it should. Whereas all these other ones kept trying to add, I don't know, trying to change it up almost instantly when it was already working. Like Nightmare on Elm Street, just to give you an example, Nightmare on Elm Street went for a, rather than Freddy being in your nightmares, he tried to come into reality and take over and possess someone's body and come into the real world again.
That sounds like a nightmare in like the worst way.
I don't know if that works for an Elm Street movie, or at least not right away.
Isn't it the whole point that it's in your dreams?
Exactly, and that's what I'm getting at. Like it's you don't need to fix what already is working. You've already got an audience that loves what you try to do with the first one. Just keep that going.
Yeah,
I think Wes Craven really got that down in the second movie.
he did. I think something I really love, like about setting it in a college campus, and like the killings in like playing up the college campus. So like the sorority house, the parties, and all that. Like it's the perfect place for a Scream movie. We're gonna talk a little bit more about this with Scream 6, which also takes place in college. But it's the perfect place.
And there's a whole car scene in this one too.
Oh wow, that scene was so good.
I know.
It's so tense when she's trying to get out of the car and Ghostface is like knocked out. It's honestly one of the most chilling scenes in the whole franchise.
100%, I agree with that. There's always so many moments throughout this franchise where they have the chance to take the mask off, but no one takes it. I would like to see an early reveal. Like maybe one of the killers dying off in number 7 or something like that, by taking the mask off halfway through and just being like, no, that's who the fucker is, kind of thing.
Oh, maybe they would do that in the next one. That could be fun.
Yeah. What do we think of the Ghostface reveal in this one? So it was revealed that it was Laurie Metcalf and Timothy Oliphant the whole time.
I loved it so much.
I think it's a perfect 2 actors.
Yeah, Timothy Oliphant is like so fun.
I was just going to say, I really quite like the way they played off Laurie Metcalf's character. What is it? Is it what's the name of the character? Is it Diane? No, it's not Diane Sawyer. Because Diane Sawyer is who they're. Is that who they're trying to?
She had a different name, but she was actually Nancy Loomis.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So the fact that they try to play her as often as a news reporter was quite a good way to kind of deter the audience. Because I never questioned up until her walking out and saying that she was Billy Loomis's mum. The entire time I fell for the whole act, and her
name was Debbie Salt. That's so
such
bad.
A reporter name. The morning show with Gail Weathers and Debbie Salt.
But I never questioned that. I think if they had maybe tried to kill her off halfway through it or something like that, and then brought her back. May have worked a little bit better. She didn't die, did she?
No, she kind of disappears. Like in the third act, she kind of disappears. Like you don't see her at all. And then she randomly like pops out, and and she's like, and Sydney hasn't seen her the whole movie, and Sydney sees her and she's like, "Oh, Nancy Loomis," and Gail goes, "What the fuck?" It's such a good scene.
And then Timothy Oliphant is like invincible that whole final act.
Yeah.
So much shit happens to him and he's like, ah!
Always go for the head, man. Always go for the head. That's what these movies taught us.
Says.
So what do you guys think rating-wise?
Rating-wise, I would say 7 out of 10, 7.5 for Scream 2.
What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, probably about an 8. I think the only things that brought me down for this one was I felt like Sydney, she was a little bit down in the first movie, but this one kind of really made it more so. Like I feel like she was just a bit of a down of the whole movie.
I get that.
I wanted to root for Jerry O'Connell a few times because he was always that boyfriend trying to help out and being, be good to her and stuff like that. But she was always, obviously, the reason why she's second guessing the whole time is because she was dating Billy Loomis.
Yeah, she was like traumatized.
But in my brain, I'm like, this is Jerry O'Connell. Come on, he's such a good guy. He's sliders. Let him.
Man, that scene in the cafeteria where he sings for her is so cute. I was like, marry this man. What the fuck are you doing?
That's it. Yeah, that should have been proof enough that he wasn't trying to
make him Mr. Prescott.
Okay, my ratings for this one are higher than both of you. It's an 8.25. I prefer this one than the original.
8.25. Ooh. Scream 3, considered to be the worst of the franchise.
It is the worst of the franchise.
And in this one, Cotton Weary gets murdered in the first scene. And
do you wanna know how you can know this is the worst of the franchise? Name those two people in that poster. You can't.
No, I can't.
Because you have no idea who the hell those people
I
are.
don't even remember. But yeah. And then
I saw it 3 days ago and I don't know who these people are.
It's Parker Posey. She was playing Gail Weathers.
Oh, it's Parker Posey.
No, I know the actors, but I don't know like who they're playing.
Here's what I'll say. Like, there's a couple fun scenes on the movie set because like they're trying to imitate what we've already seen happen, and the whole scene where like Randy is like revealing, like there's a video with Randy and he's talking about the end of the trilogy rules. That's good. Other than that, it just wasn't funny anymore, and all the tropes from the first two movies. That's when you started to feel it get old.
Yeah, for me, the scene that worked really well, like you said in the set, when Ghostface is going around stalking Sydney in like her house, like what's supposed to be her house. That was for me the highlight of the movie. Like that was so good. And also, I think when one of the actresses is like in an office, and there's like 1,000 Ghostface costumes, and you just see Ghostface like leaning out of one of them. Like that was pretty good. But yeah, and the stuff that you mentioned. Other than that, I hated this movie.
Fair enough. This was the first one I actually got to see in cinemas. And there's always something about movies that I see in cinemas that I hold higher for some reason. Like I quite like, and I'm going to be the only person that says this, I quite like Batman and Robin. But it's the reason I think when I saw it in cinemas, I was, that was 95, I'm going to say, 95, 96, maybe 97. I wasn't that old.
I think it's 97.
And at the time, Arnold Schwarzenegger's, my favorite actor, and the cheesiness of him was just unbelievable. So I quite held that movie quite high. This movie was I also still quite like. The only thing I don't like about this movie was the reveal. I felt like it was quite, we're out of ideas. So let's try and connect up everything we can. And I really didn't like the overall trying to find out who the mum was the whole time, looking at the pictures of her.
Yeah, leaving those photos was so like soap opera.
Like they were trying to do the whole trilogy ending thing that they talk about. So they had to do something that impacts the whole trilogy by having it be like her illegitimate brother. And then he's like, oh, I hired Skeet Ulrich, Billy Loomis, and Stu to kill it. And then that kind of undermines it, because imagine if it was just like Stu and Billy Loomis are these insane teenagers who decided to go on this murderous rampage. Like that's better than her illegitimate brother being like, here's some money, kill this woman. Like, and that the actor who played it, I thought it wasn't memorable at all. This is the only one.
It's the guy from Scandal. I forgot his name.
Yeah, I don't remember the actor's name, but he was, I think, the director of the Stab movie.
Yeah.
And he turned out to be her brother. And like, I get that they were going for the trilogy ending big reveal thingy. It didn't work.
Yeah. This is also one of those movies where they changed the ending too. They had shot another version of it with the girl that plays Sidney Prescott in the movie. I can't think of her name. She's quite a big actress. Anyway, she was originally the killer. And that was changed, I believe, because the script was leaked. And so they had to change it to kind of throw the twist in the end. So the twist was a kind of like a last minute ditch effort to change it up, but it just felt so cheap. And it almost feels like it's similar to like the sequel Star Wars trilogy, where they just need a fucking whiteboard. Just work this shit out. As if they had put a little thing earlier on in Scream 1 or even 2, you knew, like Craven knew that Scream 2 was going to be freaking huge. Like Scream 1 was massive. You would, no matter what, you'll get in a trilogy. Unless you made something terrible with Scream 2, you'll get in a trilogy. So if you just took 5 seconds to go, I want to sprinkle a little, fairy dust in number 2 that's going to lead on to number 3, then that would have made that whole scenario a lot better. Like even if it was just a couple of words from the dad that said, I just found out your mom had an illegitimate brother or illegitimate son or something like that with someone else. And that's all they say about in the whole movie. Then the third movie that reveal that would have been like,
yeah, it definitely felt like a Rey, you're a Palpatine moment.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's 100% it.
It was sweet. Like she had a little bit of growth in the final scene when she's like, okay, I don't need all this hardcore security in my house anymore. But just the rest of the movie, like...
Okay, I have one good thing to say about this movie.
Oh, and also Gale and Dewey together.
That's what I was gonna say.
Really?
They really explore a little bit more Gale and Dewey, which they are a really good couple because they complement each other pretty well, because they're so different, and just as a detective duo, they complement each other pretty well. Let's do grades. I'll start because I have a feeling mine is like the worst. It's a 4 out of 10 for me.
Ditto.
Wow. Oh, come on. I'm still.
But I didn't
It's
suffer watching
to be
it.
fair, it's the only one I dislike.
I didn't suffer watching it
of the whole
but
franchise.
it's enough to be a 4 out of 10. Like, whatever.
Yeah, right.
What about you, Ryan?
I'm sticking still high, but I'll still go lower. But I'd say about 7 for me. I think, like as I said, the franchise is pretty strong the whole way through for me. But I think also I come from a different time, even for you guys. Like I saw this one in the cinema when it came out, opening night kind of thing. And I do think the thing that brought it down for me was the ending and the reveal. It felt a little cheap, but that's probably why it's a 7. Not the worst in the franchise for me.
Really?
Me neither, actually.
Are you kidding me? I love this one.
Now I want to talk about what I think is the worst in the franchise.
I love this
Scream
one.
4.
This one is great. Screw you guys. This one is amazing.
Let me start. Look, I said a second ago I thought Scream 3 was like dull, but I didn't suffer watching it. Scream 4 was a little tough. I thought the shenanigans in this one got too stupid for me. And I don't know, like all the lines and the acting. There's a rare occasion where a performance is so bad where it starts to bring down the movie with it. That's how I felt about Emma Roberts in Scream 4.
Oh, for sure. She was not a highlight,
She was
to say
so
the least.
bad.
But I want to say something just because I really like this movie, and I guess most people don't. I know quality-wise it's probably not one of the greatest, but it is the one that I had the most fun. Not the most fun, but like one of the ones that I had the most fun with. I had a lot of fun with the new characters, the new kids. I love the police officers played by
Anthony Anderson.
Anthony Anderson.
He's the only part that I liked.
By Anthony Anderson and the guy from the OC, Adam Brody. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Adam Brody. He was good also.
And I love the twist in this one. I think it's so stupid that it works, in my opinion. Like it gets to that cheesy level that I'm like, yeah, that's so meta, that's so stupid that it works. And yeah, like besides Emma Roberts acting, I don't think she can pull off that much being Ghostface, but everything else I adored.
Bro, what about the scene where she fight clubs herself?
I was laughing so hard when she was doing that. You see, the kind of things that people probably hated, I was just enjoying myself.
I will say, this isn't the one I was talking about. I actually also no, but
I thought you were with me on this one.
No, I'll leave my twist to the end. No, so Scream 4 for me, I thought it was fun. I was pretty excited about this movie actually when it came out because we'd been in quite a while since a Scream movie. I mean, outside of I think it was like even still, I quite liked the reveal. I thought the reveal was pretty good. I didn't guess it.
Yeah, I didn't guess it either. It caught me by surprise. I was shocked.
Rory Culkin felt a little bit dodgy the whole way through.
Yeah, I didn't like Rory Culkin either.
But yeah, and Hayden Panettiere, I can never say last name. I'm gonna butcher that.
Panettiere, I think
Hayden
it is.
Panettiere.
I loved her since Heroes, so like she's always been like a favorite of mine.
And like she's been pretty good the whole way through. I quite like this one. I thought it was a good fun time. I think the kills were cool. I thought the storyline was interesting. I liked that they twisted it back to being able to go back into high school. But yeah, I still quite like this one. I thought it was still a good time.
Yay!
You know what this felt like to me? You guys are both gonna hate me for this. Like the way it was shot and the writing and the acting, this felt like a scary movie.
Oh no,
for me.
screw you, guy. Get out of this podcast. You are fired.
Alan, that's still a Scream movie, right? So that's okay.
It's still a Scream movie, which is why I'm upset.
For me, I hated the Ghostface twist. The whole ending was just, I don't know. It felt like the easiest thing they could have come up with. I don't know. And just
For
her
me-
acting in those last 10 minutes. And then like Sydney's completely fine with killing her own cousin. So great. I don't know. Oh, and Alison Brie's death. That was cool, I guess. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
I feel I have to say something about Hayden Panettiere. In this movie, I guess in general in the franchise, I think she might be my favorite character outside the main core of characters. To this point, I'm not counting at Scream 5 or 6 because I have a character that I like more in the other movies, but she's like one of my favorites in the franchise. I love her character.
Okay, yeah, she was good.
Let's do ratings. Gal, can you start so we can move on from your negativity?
I'm not gonna lie that I didn't. Okay, at least when I saw it a year ago, and my view of it hasn't changed. When I saw it, I gave it a 3 out of 10. I still really don't like it.
Wow. Ryan?
Yeah, look, I 7. I'm sticking high with these ones.
Nice.
There's no real
you guys,
get to the one I didn't like.
If people are mostly with Gal on this one, I'm fucked. Because for me, it's a 7.5. I had a
I think
blast.
this is the most polarized me and Alan have ever been about a movie.
I had a blast watching this movie. Are you guys ready for some requel action? It is the 2020s after all, and that's the only thing we can do now. So, Scream, not Scream 5. Scream, which is very confusing, came out in 2002, aka
2022,
sorry, aka last year. And it kind of blew up in the box office. It was like a huge success. It is, as I mentioned before, a requel, which means you have old characters, but the main characters are the new characters, which was not the case for Scream 4, like Ryan said. But everyone that survives mostly is back as well in like a supporting role. But the new people that we have here are Jenna Ortega as what's her name? Tara. And like the two main final girls, I guess, are Jenna Ortega and oh my god, what is happening with me today?
Do you want me to take over?
Take over, please.
So yeah, and this one we had Jenna Ortega, Melissa Barrera is
Melissa
the main
Barrera,
two.
I love her. How can I forget her name?
We had Jack Quaid, Jasmine Savoy Brown, Mason Gooding, Dylan Minnette, and
wow, I just blanked out on everyone.
So yeah, this
I
movie...
just remembered Jenna Ortega, which I guess it's what everyone's doing now. But
yeah, Jenna's great. So yeah, this one, I really, really like this one. It's actually...
Ditto.
Not sure when 6 comes into the mix, but so far, it's actually my favorite out of all the Scream sequels. And I think, first of all, I feel like this movie did the commentary. Everything that Scream 4 tried to do, this one like did it better because they each had 11 years apart. And this, first of all, like Scream 4, I feel like they kind of just threw in the remake commentary, but didn't really do much interesting with it. But also requels are such a new phenomenon, like Force Awakens, Creed, Cobra Kai, Halloween, Ghostbusters Afterlife, and now it's everywhere. But it also plays into the tropes of the requel well, while not doing it in like a too frustratingly, like, we're doing this just for nostalgia kind of way. And I really liked the new leads, Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega in particular were great. And honestly, this is the one where I thought David Arquette was at some of his best because I thought he was actually really entertaining. And even though they were supporting characters, I think they used all the 3 characters really well.
I think he may be even classified as a main character in this one, right?
I guess.
Like he's in most of the movie.
Yeah, here he goes from discount Ryan Gosling to, I guess, discount Bill Pullman. That's what he looks like to me.
Oh my god, Gal.
The first time they've actually given him something to do. Or, like in every movie prior to this, he's always been helping out someone. Like in the first one, he was helping his sister, and then moving forward from then, he was always helping out Courtney Cox. And this one kind of separated them a little bit to give him help to all the main cast, and he became that supporting role to actually support them, like to be the he was a private detective, right? He wasn't at that point. He wasn't a police officer.
I don't think he was anything. Like I think he was just a deadbeat guy living in a trailer park. I don't think he had a job.
He and Courtney Cox like broke up in between each movie,
which is very fitting for a requel. That is also a requel standard.
Yeah, like Han Solo and Leia.
Yeah, to break up your main couple.
Or Rocky Balboa and his son.
Exactly, or his wife who died. Spoiler alert. That's a bit of a breakup.
Oh God.
It
Damn,
wasn't his choice, but she did leave him.
I also think like
Quite strong. I think the cast was really good in it. I think this for me is probably the best sequel out of all of them, and I would put it straight to if I had a ranking, this would be number 2, of course. To number 1 would be Scream 1. But I think this had a unique storyline that was still like, if you were coming into the franchise, it was similar to number 1, but still so much different than number 1 that it gave something to the original fans of the series, something fresh and something new and something exciting to look forward to. And I think they did extremely well with trying to hide the fact that, the realization that Jack Quaid was the killer. Keep in mind, I cannot remember I know who it was, but I cannot remember her name and how much she was in the movie, the second killer.
Mikey Madison.
Right. Well, I mean, realistically, it was Jack Quaid, the killer, right? So, like, she was also a killer, but she didn't really add much.
She was.
I will say her turning scene was really fun, because the other girl was like, "I'm not the fucking killer. I'm not the killer," and she's like, "Yeah, you're not," and she just shoots her in the head. That was a really fun shot. Ryan mentioned Jack Quaid, and I loved his turn as well, because Sydney shoots him through the door, and he's like, "Oh fuck!" and then the other Ghostface like drops her down the stairs. And he goes, "Oh fuck, it's Ghostface!" and like in the cheesiest way possible, like he's a fan, which later on we realize he is. But it's so funny because like he comes down the stairs, and you're like, after that you're like, it's definitely not him. Like, let's figure out who it is. And then he just like stabs Sam, and you're like,
I didn't think
oh
it was
my
him at
God.
all.
I also quite like that this, I mean, it did a very similar thing as Force Awakens did, but killing off your main cast by killing off Dewey, I think was, real ballsy move. The movie also turned up the violence a lot.
This movie like did a whole commentary on how angry Star Wars fans were after The Last Jedi. It's even like Stab 8, and it's like, didn't Rian Johnson write it? Or something like that. And then I love the part when Jack Quaid goes, "How can fandom be toxic?" And
It's so funny.
I think that underlying message was amazing and incredible, and I think it was such a beautiful love letter almost to fans, and just saying, but also saying like a love letter, but also like giving a flip off, to all fans, just saying like, just calm down, you dickheads, you know what I mean? Like,
also the whole like,
we got this. Come down.
The whole
come down.
elevated horror thing where Jenna Ortega's like, "What's your favorite horror movie?" "The Babadook." "People need a message, an underlying undertone." It's like she uses all these big words. As soon as the movie started with that, I was like, I'm gonna like this.
Yeah, when she was talking about Hereditary as a better horror movie as well.
I was like, that's literally me.
the something we haven't actually really talked about, I think, is the opening scenes to these movies. I mean, we've briefly talked on them, but like, I was just going to bring up number 4 quickly, of being the worst opening scenes.
Absolutely.
Of these movies, which had like multiple opening scenes. It was going
Oh,
through.
yeah.
It's like within a movie.
It was, yeah.
See,
And,
I also had fun with that.
I thought this particular opening movie of Scream 5 was unreal, and I believe Jenna Ortega, correct me if I'm wrong, was the only opening girl that survived, right?
Yeah, I think also this is the best opening scene since the original, no?
Yeah, I also think just the cinematography and the color grading and the lighting is some of the best in the whole series.
Yeah. And I think just the fact that Jenna Ortega is such a good actress, she pulls off getting killed, even though she doesn't actually die, like really well. Like you're and like you said, she's really likable. She's talking about like all these nerdy horror movies, and yeah, like it's for sure one of the best. Melissa Barrera was she had a tough job in this one, because she had the whole it's not is it Stu Macher? No, what's his name? The other killer.
Oh, wait, Billy Loomis.
Billy
She's his
Loomis,
daughter.
thank you. She's his daughter, so she has like Billy Loomis like haunting her, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, Skeet Ulrich got like de-aged.
But like it's really weird to act opposite of that. Like so it does show sometimes that like it's not the easiest thing. Which I don't blame her at all. I think that was a weird choice. I think they could make her haunted, but like more in like a psychological way. I thought it was weird that she was like seeing him everywhere.
So what's your rating for Scream 2022?
I was saying it's a 9. I gave Scream 1 9.5. I'm going to give this one 9. And I think it was an amazing comeback to the franchise. It was the first one that Paramount took over. It's been a New Line and Dimension film prior to this, and I think Paramount knew they bought something that could be really exciting, and they nailed it.
I will second that. It's also a 9 out of 10 for me. I love this movie so much.
Okay.
It quickly became like, again, we're not talking about the 6th yet, but it was my favorite one before we watched the 6th one out of the whole franchise.
Okay, so I'll say 8, and now I want to hear this about 6. So let's talk about our review. Scream 6, they're in Manhattan. Now, Ghostface takes Manhattan, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, most of the same cast is back, except Neve Campbell, unfortunately. Hayden Panettiere came back. Samara Weaving, Dermot Mulroney, Tony Revolori, and more joined the cast. And me and Alan saw it in the theater, and we had a lot of fun. I think it both tries to like subvert expectations, but also plays into the tropes that are like ridiculously overused, but it kind of works because it makes you laugh. And I think even though we don't see much of the old cast, I think the new cast is able to carry it so well. And I'm scared that Ryan's gonna crap on this movie.
I'm not going to crap on it. I just have my problems, but I'll let you guys get in there first, and then I'll jump in. What did you like about it? What did you like about it?
I will start with the fact that all those small issues I had with Melissa Barrera in the last one, because of the whole haunting situation, they are gone here. She is so good as the final girl in this movie. You know, like as actually the main character. Neve Campbell is nowhere to be seen in this one. The burden of the main girl, I guess, falls on her.
And it feels completely natural.
It feels natural. It doesn't feel like they're forcing anything. She's a great actress. She's always been a great actress since, like, I guess In the Heights, which is the only other thing that I watched her in. But
Same.
she's a great actress. And her relationship with Jenna Ortega is just, I think, one of the most fleshed out relationships in the whole Scream franchise. It's really detailed. It's really nuanced, which again is really weird because it's a movie about a guy that puts on a mask and slashes everyone. So it's nice when it goes that deep into like some relationships.
But I also want to shout out Jasmine Savoy Brown and Mason Gooding.
Yeah, they're great.
There's such a wave of energy whenever they're talking. I really enjoyed them. I'm glad they're now like the recurring characters in each installment too. They're a lot of fun. I love them.
Yeah, those core 4, which
They call themselves that now.
Yeah, they call that. I think they're supposed to be like, you know, the new core,
Dewey, Gale,
like
Sidney.
Dewey, Gale, Sidney. How they were the trio in the other ones, and I think they take that position really well. Like Jasmine Savoy Brown, she takes that Randy role to a new level in these movies. Like, it's because I think she's a modern nerd. Like, we're so like,
and she talks about
wired
Letterboxd.
to think. Yeah, when she said like this killer is not on Letterboxd or something like that, I had a huge laugh.
It's like I feel represented.
And yeah, like she just feels like exactly like the kind of character that probably Randy felt for you, Ryan, when you watched the first ones.
Yeah.
That's probably how she feels like for us.
She's my Randy.
Yeah, and I'm totally with you. Like, I completely agree with you. I think that she is 100%. I would almost say she's even more likable than Randy for me. And her scene that she had in Scream 5 talking about requels, and then in this one trying to explain how this one will go down, and then later on saying, I have no fucking idea, you know, what's going to happen next, kind of thing, was quite a really nice.
She's like, I got it wrong again.
That's it.
So funny.
But it was, yeah, outside of that, I quite also liked the love interest between Jenna Ortega and I've forgotten his name in the movie.
Mason Gooding.
Cuba Gooding Jr.'s son.
I just learned that last night. That's wild.
It's not Cameron.
His name in the movie is...
Oh, Chad.
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 They even make a really good joke about that in the movie.
Right. And I quite enjoyed their love interest. And I also think that he's become the Dewey of the movie that's going to keep, being wheeled out on the bed at the end of the movie, being stabbed multiple times, but still survive on. But that's pretty much outside of that, and maybe the opening sequence. That's all I enjoyed about this movie. There was a lot of brutal scenes that I thought were quite cool. But if you want me to kick off why I didn't like it, I can go there.
Let's hear it.
Let's first just go over the opening scene that you just mentioned, because it was really different, and then we'll go into why you don't like it.
Yeah, sure.
So you're right. We forgot to shout out the opening scene. This one was also one of the best opening scenes in the whole franchise. When you're listening to the phone call, and you're like, oh my God, is that? And it turns out like to be Ghostface, but then he takes his mask off, and it's Tony Revolori, who you thought you heard on the phone, and you're like, oh, what's happening here now? Like, and I like the joke that he lured the film professor to the alley. He's like, you literally teach slasher movies. Why would you walk into a?
You literally survived Ready or Not. You're better than this.
So yeah, that was a really fun and like out of a crazy opening scene.
Yeah.
Go on, tell us why you didn't like it.
I mean, definitely unique for opening scenes too. Like I think that seeing it from the killer's perspective and how they get it done and why they get it done. Even seeing him, I thought it was really unique putting the mask back on the mannequin in the dorm room that he did. I thought that was amazing. I really loved that opening sequence. But yeah, from then on, it kind of just went down the tropes of basically copying the second movie, and everything felt cheap. There was no reason for it. Like, I feel like every sequel prior to this has had a reason to be. Like, it's trying to be the trilogy. It's trying to be the sequel. It's trying to be the reboot. It's trying to be the requel. This one didn't have that, and it was proof in when the new characters, I've just not remember the names.
Mindy.
She implies that she doesn't
Mindy.
know what's happening, and I feel like the writers didn't know what was happening either. And what really frustrated me was that along the way, throughout all the Scream movies, there's been little Easter eggs here and there that have been thrown in to lure you away from the killer. Like in the first movie, I can think of there's a sequence where Dewey and the sheriff at the time are talking, but the scene opens up the shot opens up. They're talking in front of the campus, in front of the high school, and the scene opens up with their feet, and you can see what kind of boots they're wearing. And then there's a shot later where Nev Campbell's in the toilet, and she's being hunted by the Ghostface.
And you see the boots, yeah.
It's his boots come down. You're like, oh, Dewey's the killer. That's his boots. There's the boots. It's all connecting up. In this one,
okay, are you gonna spoil anything? Because if so, we're gonna start the spoil section.
Oh yeah, please.
Yeah, let's start.
I already started
Okay.
spoiling things way back.
So from this point on, spoilers for Scream 6. We almost fucked up, but we didn't.
Yeah, sorry,
Go ahead, Ryan.
You can come for me. I'm known as spoiling stuff between some of my friends, and it's usually unintentionally. Just a quick one. I used to work for a cable network, and we got TV shows a lot earlier than other people would. And one day I decided to put up, and we're talking about Game of Thrones just really quickly. I put up a picture of Jon Snow, and it just had Rip below it, but I had no idea. I hadn't seen the episode, but apparently, yeah. Anyway, he died that episode, and I had spoiled it like 4 hours prior to it coming out. And
Oh God.
people deleted me from Facebook, and I was like, I was just joking. I hadn't seen the episode, but anyway, he died in it. So spoilers is what I'm known for. But anyway, Piper, the best friend that lived in the house. Within 15 minutes of the movie, she mentioned her dead brother, and instantly I went, oh, that's Quaid's character, Jack Quaid's character. And so she's that, and the dad's the other killer, and that's it. And I was like, great. Well, hopefully that's not it, because that'll be a twist to get away from that. And then there was no fucking twist. That was the end of the movie. And I was like, you kidding me?
That's weird, because I completely missed that. And also,
Yeah,
the last thing I was gonna
I-
guess.
I think that's it. I think because we missed that, like, we didn't make that connection right away.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think that's why the movie worked so much better for us.
Right. No, I'm always trying to pick up things like that in whodunits, like so I can stay ahead of the game. And usually I'm terrible at it. My wife is fantastic at it. She will spoil things like 20 minutes into movies or like 3 episodes before the final episode. She'll ruin it. And for once I was like, oh, this is going to happen, and my brain went, no, there'll be a twist to make that not right. But then it was right, and that is probably my main problem with this whole movie, is that the writing in it felt very cheap. It wasn't exciting. There was no differences between other movies. So like the killers being connected to the previous killer. So like Billy Loomis's mum being in the second movie, and then the killers in this movie being connected to Jack Quaid's character in this one. Yeah, and it's just all and set in a college, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so it just felt very cheaply written. I felt like they could have made so many different changes into it, and the trailer really set it up to being something else. And that for me was going to be.
See, I
didn't watch the trailer.
I didn't watch the trailer.
So maybe that set a tone.
Just to get you on the same bandwagon as me, the trailer really set it up to be a sequel that connected every sequel, and it showed that shot of all the Ghostface costumes on the stage, and my brain went, what if this Nev Campbell comment about her not being in the movie was a whole ploy for the whole movie to get her out of the movie, but actually she is in the movie, and that was a twist on everybody being in the internet, and maybe that's where this movie's going, and people on the internet ruining movies. So the third movie was ruined by the internet, and they've never gone down that track of spoilers, right? So they could have gone down the track where Nev Campbell was the Ghostface in this one, and she's just trying to end the whole scenario. I'm coming up with a whole new movie here, but it's where my brain was going.
We thought Gale was Ghostface at one point.
Until the middle of the movie, I was 100% sure that it was Gale.
Right.
Like 100% sure.
And something like that would have been really cool, because that would have kept it in the same kind of ballsy move as 5 did with killing off Dewey. Making Gale the killer would have made it different, would have changed it up for the rest of the franchise, and would have given us a cool send-off for that character, because obviously she would have died, she wouldn't have made it out of it. But for her to just be like, I was out of story ideas, I was out of ideas to write books, and I needed another one to make more money or something like that, just to give her one little thing, would have been great. I would have loved that. And she could have used Piper as
and they could have gone the route of like, she never snapped before because it wasn't Dewey, and when it happened to Dewey, she snapped.
And that's also the whiteboard moment, where you've got a whiteboard. You kill Dewey off to make Courtney Cox the killer. Like you've got the whiteboard. But of course,
I don't think they even knew if they were gonna make a Scream 6 when they made Scream 5.
Okay, I will say that one thing that maybe worked better for us, at least for me, it's because like I understand all those points, but I thought that this was supposed to be like the requel to, so like retreading all the points from the second movie and all that. So that made a lot of sense to me, why the killer was who it was, and everything like that. It's basically like you said, like Scream 2. So for me it worked, maybe because of that. Maybe I gave it like the benefit of the doubt of being like, that's what Scream does, and it was like retreading the exact steps of Scream 2.
If they retread Scream 3, we're fucked.
Oh yeah, we're fucked. But I will say, this movie for me has the best kills in the franchise.
Yes. Yeah.
Like what Ghostface can do in New York, he can't do anywhere else. Like there's some scenes here, the window scene, like that killed me. Like when the girlfriend died, I think.
Yeah.
Like that was so fucked up. Ghostface with a shotgun was insane. Like it was just really good. And yeah, like I enjoyed the twist. Just because I guess it's because we didn't catch it. Like the whole thing, I thought it was Gale, and then I thought it was Kirby. I was 100% sure that it was Kirby.
Yeah.
And they even say that it was Kirby.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't. So yeah. So I really loved watching this movie. I had a great time.
I was honestly just happy to be watching a Scream movie, and it just kept delivering for me. Like again, I didn't watch the trailer, so I didn't know where it was going. All the callbacks were either earned or whatnot, and it felt like there were stakes. It felt like nobody was safe for me. It felt like it used what was good in the fifth one and made something a little bigger and gorier, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I did quite like the kills. I thought the kills were quite unique in this movie. I do wish they killed off Gale. I think they did quite a big moment for her to die in that movie, but she lived on to see another day. But the thing actually, Alan, you were saying just then that, you can only do these kills in New York. I think the only scene for me that really actually felt like it was New York was the I'm guessing I'm going to call it a 7-Eleven or whatever it was, the little
bodega
mini mart.
No, the subway one really worked as well.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, but
I
like,
agree. The subway was great.
That subway could have been anywhere, really. There was no there was never.
No,
a
but it had like the vibe that it was like the subway in New York, all the crazies in Halloween, people like all dressed up.
Yeah.
I never been in New York in Halloween, but I'm assuming that's how.
Yeah,
it is.
yeah. Well, I guess what I'm alluding to, I guess, is it just felt like any random American city. Like it didn't. I mean, I'm not American at all. I'm Australian. I only know America by the very small, limited amount of time that I've spent there, and then obviously American movies. But like, if you tell me it's New York, the things that I need to see to make it New York are like the Empire State Building or something like that. And there was nothing like that from this movie. And even like if you think of Jason Takes Manhattan, and they did show that movie in this. I'm not sure if you guys seen Friday the 13th Part 8. Highly recommend. It's cheesy as hell, but there is a sequence where Jason walks down Times Square, and that's quite a unique sequence. But there was nothing like that in this movie. They didn't really use Times Square to its full advantage, and I thought for me it was a little bit disappointing. And I thought, they could have really built up on the New York part of it. It could have been any random city. I didn't think it needed to be shot in New York.
So with that, what's your rating for this movie?
5.5 out of 10.
Ooh.
Wow.
I'd say based on enjoyment alone, I'd say 8 right now.
Wow, I'm really high on this one, I guess.
What's yours?
This one was one of my favorites. I gave it a 9.
Yeah, awesome.
Wow,
I think that's what makes it fun, right? Like I think all different horror movies give different people different excitement levels. I think I'm still really excited for the next one, but I think they really need to start making it a little bit different. I think sticking it to the same tropes as the original ones, you've pleased fans enough by doing number 5. This one could have been a different step by taking it to New York and making it completely different from the others, but I don't think they did it far enough than what they've done before. And I'd really like to see them kill off Courtney Cox, and I'd really like them to see.
I'm with you there.
I am not. I love that woman.
To really either become Ghostface the killer or trying to finish the series, like her trying to kill off every connection to Ghostface there is. That way,
I would love that idea that, like you suggested, about Nev Campbell, like coming back and just killing everyone. I would even be up for like being two, like it usually is two.
It's Gale
and her just like whacking people up, and then they kill themselves. I don't know.
Well, no, but let them walk off into the sunset and just be like, I'm writing my own movie this time. I'm not letting people write their movie for me. I'm doing it myself, and I'm sending myself off the sunset that I want. I want to be able to ride into the sunset.
But I would only love if they did that and they weren't in the movie at all, and they only get revealed in the end.
Just right at the end? Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Like if they weren't in the movie at all, it was like a Melissa Barrera thing. They not even referenced, and then that's the twist.
That's it.
Okay, we had a great time talking Scream.
I'm screaming.
I'm a new fan of the franchise. I love it. I want to rewatch it already, the whole thing, which is crazy because I never thought in a million years that would happen. And I love it. It's one of my favorite horror franchises now. And I can't wait for Scream 7, which also I thought I would never say.
Yeah.
There you go.
So Ryan, tell the people where they can find you online.
So you guys can find me at Movie Nerds on Instagram, at movie.nerds on Instagram.
It's right there.
We talk movies. Sorry. Oh yeah. That's right. It's in here. It's just here. Where is it? There it is.
There you go.
There.
Yeah, that's it. We talk movies, reviews. We hit up a lot of premieres here in Sydney. Chat to a lot of people. And if there's anything you want to know from us, just hit us up in the DMs. We usually reply pretty quickly. We just love talking movies.
Great.
It was awesome having you.
Yeah, we loved having you. Thank you also for helping us out with our awards this past few days.
Yeah, check out the Golden Slice Awards if you haven't already.
Yeah, a little shameless plug because I spent about 45,000 hours editing that thing.
Thank you to Alan.
So
And remember to like and hit the sub button.
Yes, and follow us on Instagram as well at Film Fanatics Pod. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks again for Ryan. Hopefully we all won't be slashed anytime soon, and we'll get to see other movies soon. Bye, guys.
Film Fanatics. From the silver screen to your earphones with Alan Azulay and Gal Balaban.